Welcome back to A.R.T.'s Real Repairs for Real Customers. Our assignment this time is to restore a partner's desk. Now, a partner's desk is a desk that can be shared by, you got it, two partners. And you'll see these in institutions like a bank, for example. Now, I don't know the vintage of this desk in particular, but it's been handed down in the family for many, many years, and it has great sentimental value. The original top is gone, but they've asked us to replace the top with, again, a leather top. So that'll be an interesting project for us. Saddle up, partner. Let's get to work. First of all, the blue vinyl had to be removed. And then, as you saw before, the remnants of that had to be scraped off. Then my friend Pete, who is the consummate craftsman, had to replace some of this wood veneer. Notice he didn't cut the wood perpendicular to the grain, he cut it on an angle. And that's going to help disguise it. You can also see here some of the original gold embossing from the original leather top. But for the sake of cost, it was decided not to replace that. Once the customer made a decision on the leather, we had to carefully measure the depth of this table because the leather is inset. And on this edge, we measure 4/64. And moving to the other side, we take another measurement, and it is 4/64 as well. So our leather cannot be greater than 4/64 thick. In fact, we're going for 3/64 on the leather because we don't want to accidentally top the wood with the edge of the leather, because then when you reach across the table, you would grab the edge of that leather and turn it up. We don't want to risk doing that at any point around the table. So it would be better to have the leather recessed a little bit below this border. And in this case, by 1/64. And it's interesting that the thickness of leather is measured by ounce. And as you can see in this table, a 1-ounce leather is a leather that is 1/64 of an inch thick. So looking down the list, if you needed a leather that was 1/16 of an inch thick, the warehouse stock person would give you a 4-ounce leather. But in that case, my suggestion is to not reduce the fraction 4/64 down to 1/16. Why not? If you say 4/64, then the stocking person already has the number 4 there, 4 ounce. If you say 1/16, then he has to do the math. So that avoids a math error by keeping 4/64 in that instance. Additionally, 4/64 tells the stock person something specific about what you did. 4/64 reveals a higher degree of accuracy of measurement. It tells him that you did not measure to the nearest 16th. You measured to the nearest 64th. You can imagine that to an engineer, that kind of thinking is especially critical. Consider, for example, why this equation is not entirely accurate. You can see that we measured 2 to the nearest hundredth. But if we represent the sum as 4, it looks as though we've measured to the nearest integer. So in this case, the sum, 4, does not reflect the degree of accuracy of measurement. And any one of my siblings would say, leave it to Rick to try to prove that 2 and 2 does not equal 4. This equation would appear much more accurate because the number 4 reveals the degree of accuracy of measurement. So we could communicate with a person 1/16, and that would be fine. But if we communicated 4/64, then that person knows a whole lot more about what we've been up to. He has an idea of the precision at which we've measured and the tolerances that we're going to expect because we've reflected the degree of accuracy of measurement. And that's about all the fun I can have with 4/64ths. But as we've mentioned in our instance here, we want to come a 64th short of the border. We don't want to crest the border and risk hitting the edge of our leather when we reach across the table. So to that end, we have shared this swatch with the customer. It shows the exact thickness and the grain and the color, and this got the approval. So now we need to order the proper amount. The inset of our table measures 62 by 40 inches, so we will need one complete hide. Now we're about to meet Jamie. I have only talked to Jamie on the phone in the past, never in person. And as you know, it's always good to meet your business contacts in person because they become part of your team at that point. Hello, Jamie.
Hey, Art, how are you
Good. Doing good. You got me ready.
Got you ready.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you.
As well.
This is the leather hide,
Oh, okay.
the Indian black.
It's the Indian black. Oh, yeah.
I think it's about 54 square foot.
So that is exactly what we need right there. Oh, I'm glad you've got it in stock. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Have a good day.
Now we want to make an inspection. If there are any serious flaws, we need to cut around those, not incorporate those. There are some lines here. I'm not sure that those are going to be problematic once we get everything laid out nice and flat and glued to the table. There is one hole there, but that's not in the area we're going to use anyway. And it's good to know that the thickness is exactly as advertised. So when we're planning our cut, we don't want to make the mistake of trying to economize on the leather. For example, we wouldn't take our cut off of one half just to save the other half for later for another job. The part of the hide that will lay flat on the table is right in the middle, obviously. The wood shop has put a first coat of finish along the border, so I'm using my 2-inch masking to preserve that. Of course, we want to prepare a nice smooth bed for the leather. And what we're finding here is each one of these boards is cupped on the edges. So where the boards join up, we need to take them down to level. Our first application of Bondo is going to be where these boards meet up together, where there's gaps and separations. Now that the leather is rough cut and held down from sliding around, I elected to use a Bondo spreader to score a line where I'm going to be cutting, just to give me a visual, and that way I won't stray too far. On a big desk like this, there's no need to be overly concerned about the exact cut, because there's going to be a lot of stretch in this leather. So as long as we have it contoured to the edge, and by the way, this edge is very irregular because it's such an old desk. But once we've cut it to the correct contour, we can stretch the leather up against the border. And likewise here, I'm just tracing an impression where these call buttons are situated. And as it turns out, it looks like our brass plate is going to extend all the way to the wood trim. And in pulling up the masking, I pulled up a sliver of wood here, but they are prepared to fix that at the wood shop. And I was concerned that maybe some of this white Bondo up against the trim would show. In the end, I don't think I needed to worry about it, but at least nothing will be visible between the leather and the wood trim. And showing the importance of keeping a clean work area, look at this large bump. It's amazing what a small piece of trash it takes to make such a large impression in the top. So now that we're satisfied with the lay of the leather, we can go about applying our heavy-duty paste, the same as we used on our last leather table. And as before, we want to make sure we wet down the leather before applying some of the paste there. And get that all embedded in the fibers. The roller just helps to make it more uniform. So with this paste, we have plenty of time to work. We don't have to rush our job. And any paste on the wood cleans up with water. A damp sponge seemed to work the best to lay everything nice and flat. And as we go around the table, we're just looking to make sure that we've butted the leather up to the wood, giving it a neat, clean finish as possible. Now, because we've laid the leather absolutely flat, it's a bit long here on this near edge. So we're going to just take a sliver off of that. We don't have to worry about cutting it too short because we can always make the leather conform to the edge. As the paste is setting up, I'm making several trips around the table, periodically just to make sure everything is lying down where it needs to be. This brass plate is a nice finishing touch, and we're using some slotted screws which fit the time period that this thing was built. The wood shop already stripped the plate and polished it up and put another coat of clear. And we are at the end of our project. By the way, while we're here, look at those veneer pieces that Pete put in there. Boy, they sure blend well, don't they? Well, the customer was very happy to get this job done. She left me this note. And as they say, that's all she wrote. I want to thank you in advance for joining in the comment section. And if you find this channel is informative and you want to give a thumbs up to help the channel, I would appreciate that as well. We'll see you next time.